Doctors was great because doctors would like, we were very much the underdogs of the soap awards, and we were going for a good time. Like, we were going for a free bar, well, not me personally, but, people would go for a free bar and a dance and a night out, like, dress up and night out with all our friends. We weren't really going with, like, we're going to win best soap. So it was way past due. I'd been in that show for 11 years. I was almost 22. Why was I playing a child in a house? Do you know what I mean? Like, it was way overdue for me. And so sometimes I'd be walking up to set with an older actor and I'd be like, I might have run out of time to learn this one. I'm going to try and get it on the line run. And they'd be like, oh, I'm ready. And you'd be like, great. As then the two of you would figure it out during the line run, which I think sometimes scared the guests.
Welcome to B2B Business Club Podcast Series 2. Our guest today is Kia Pegg. Hello, Kia.
Hey.
Morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So first of all, you are a broadcaster, presenter, actor, amongst many other things. But could we have an introduction to begin with for those that don't know you?
I've never been good at introducing myself. That is basically it. I'm an actor and a presenter. I do a lot on children's television. I've been in a soap for a little bit. I have horses. That's it. I don't like introducing myself.
What are your interests and hobbies?
I'm a big reader. I read a lot. I go to the cinema at least like twice, 3 times a week. And I have horses and chickens and ducks and all animals, really.
Because to be fair, I did hear that you wanted to be a sheep farmer.
Yeah, I did want to be a sheep farmer. I probably still do, really.
Yeah. Okay, so obviously, foremost, you're an actor. Where did that come from?
It came from the fact that I can't dance because my mother was a dance teacher and she sent me for lessons when I was little. She'd always wanted a girl so that she could send her to this dance class. All of her friends had daughters at more or less the same time. And they sent me there and I was just really bad. I was really awful. Had no rhythm. I had no kind of like gross motor skills. I really struggled to concentrate and I would talk a lot during the classes. And so I don't know if I got thrown out or if they just pulled me from it. I was quite young. But my mother did genuinely quit the job from social embarrassment.
From your lack of dancing skills?
Yeah, no, genuinely. I'm not even joking. That is true. And then I really struggled to like sleep as a kid. Like I was awake all the time as they were like, she needs a hobby. Just something that will make her sleep at night. And so they sent me to drama. So it came from the fact that I didn't sleep and I couldn't dance, really.
Through adversity. I like the adversity of it.
Yeah. And then I ended up at the television workshop when I was, I think I was 8 when I ended up there. And they run as a charity to get working class children into an industry that, doesn't typically open the doors wide. But you have to audition to get in. And I got the audition through my primary school, and I got the audition because I was naughty and I didn't behave. And I was like a show off and just very naughty. And so I auditioned and got in there. So really it came from being really bad at dancing and not sleeping and not behaving. So it was just because they needed to wear me out.
You're an inspiration to a lot of, so to my child and a lot of the family and a lot.
So this thing of work hard, behave, and throw that out the window.
Well, once I started working, I really shaked up because to be a child actor, you have to have a licence, and part of the licence, I don't know if this is still true, but it was when I was young, is that your school have to write a letter to say that they're happy for you to have the time off, and that you can like keep up with your studies while you're away, and if you don't behave at school, they won't give you the letter. And so I really shaped up. I became like a model student when I was about 8 because I was like, well, I just want to not be here. So I was actually really, really good at school from the point where I started working onwards.
Because you had that goal there.
Yeah, because they wouldn't give me the letter if not.
When you were school like as well, yes, she's going.
Yeah. They were like that. It's just a real win-win situation that I wasn't there very much. And then when I was, I didn't want to be there, so I behaved.
Yeah.
Where did you go? What school did you go to?
I went to Gossy Lane was my primary school, and then I went to CTC, which isn't called that anymore.
Yeah, it's
something else now.
It's not Grace, is it? It's the other one. Yeah.
It's some sort of academy.
It's
it was an
Tudor
academy.
Bride.
It's Tudor Bride,
Yeah.
randomly.
Yeah. Well, that was a few years after I left, but I went there.
Yeah. So we was just talking on the way up that we're from the sign area kind of thing, which is
Yeah, we was to Brimshaw though, and that was hard.
Yeah.
that fence is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got down that your first acting roles. This is Chris's research. So if it's wrong.
No, it's right.
Is it right?
Yeah.
Swine flu advert.
Yeah.
So,
With Andy Peters.
Was it?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, I was only about 7. I don't have massive memories of it. I played like a genie in it, and it was against swine flu. When we say advert, we weren't promoting it.
Not much selling it.
No, we were trying to.
People are like, oh, I want to try that.
No, we were firmly against it. But it was for schools. It was like what do you call it? Like an infomercial sort
Yeah,
of thing?
an educational.
Yeah, it was like an educational thing. So it was played at my primary school. I remember that. I think it was just like a day's
Oh, so it
film.
played at your school as well?
Yeah, because it was for like West Midlands schools. I don't really know why Andy Peters was in it. I don't really know who booked Andy Peters for the swine flu epidemic.
He has been at the height of his powers as well, wouldn't it? So
Yeah, we're going back about 20 years.
this is the main man on TV, and he's
Yeah, that's what I mean. And it was just me and him. There was nobody else in it. It was just the two of us. I don't really know who booked him or how they managed to get him.
Find that out.
I doubt we were being paid similar money. I don't think we were being paid similar money at all. I wonder if he remembers it, because it was such a bizarre thing for him to do. But it was my first job. It was just at a primary school somewhere in Birmingham, and we just went there on a Saturday and filmed.
Can we at him on this clip and say, Andy, do you remember? Can you give us some more information of this swine flu advert?
Would he? Why was he there?
There's so many questions.
Do you think since COVID, you don't even remember swine flu being a thing, do you?
No, but it was, wasn't it? It was like a proper thing at a very brief moment in time. But that was my first job with Andy Peters. Bizarrely.
Excellent.
I like it. Yeah. I love the thought of you and Andy Peters. I've just got to find that advert. Yeah.
So.
What did your friends think of it? What did you think of when it came out and your friends were about? Was you like, look at me, I'm
I don't know.
Andy Peters?
It
Or
was a bit weird.
Yeah.
Well, also because, no offence to Andy Peters, he was not really of my generation.
No.
So we didn't really know who he was.
And I bet the teachers were absolutely buzzing now.
They probably were, but like the kids, I don't think really understood the excitement of Andy Peters. I can't really remember. I know it was played at school. But I can't really remember like the fallout of it. I mean, I was like 7.
Were you not like swine flu girl then?
No, I had a lot of other things going on. I had a lot of personality.
So from there you jumped pretty quickly into motion pictures, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did Well, I was in the television workshop by then. That's the thing. All of everything really that's ever come up has come from television workshop. And I did quite a niche CBBC show. The Legend of Dick and Dom was like kind of my first telly job, which I must have done around a similar time, because I was on the younger license. I know that. And then I was still at primary school when I got Tracy Beaker, but I was finishing year 6.
Yeah.
So I just started secondary school like a month or 2 later than everybody else. But then I did Tracy Beaker, or, became the dumping ground quite quickly. I did that until after I'd left college. So I did it all the way through secondary school.
Because was that always filmed here, or were you filming up north?
Oh, no, it never filmed here.
No.
It was Newcastle.
Yeah.
It was always in Newcastle, that.
What was that like, mate?
Yeah, it was, you go up on a Sunday night and you come home again on a Friday night, unless for whatever reason. I quite often stayed actually because the trains weren't regular enough for me, so I would stay fairly often. And that was that. You lived in a house with the other girls, or the boys, depending. And that was my life for 11 years, I think.
As you got a bit older, was it like uni days up there, and you'd?
Not for me. I don't drink or anything, and I'm just a bit of a nerd, really. Like I really, the bit for me that I enjoy about work is work rather than the socialising. I think, especially as teenagers, a lot of people really enjoyed the kind of social aspects. I wasn't really that bothered. So it kind of, I suppose it was. I had my own flat, so I lived in a flat up there for a bit by myself, which was, I guess similar to a uni experience. But I just like to.
Did you just grow up quite quickly?
Kind of. Acting's a funny thing, because in some ways you do. I think child actors weirdly grow up quicker than people that do it as adults, because it's quite infantilising, really. People follow you around and say, do you want a drink? Can I get you this? You have to ask to go to the toilet because, you can't just walk off a set. It's quite an infantilising job in a lot of ways. There's a lot of people, a set of people get you ready in the morning, a set of people wash your clothes at night. But as children, I think weirdly you are pushed to grow up quicker because you're expected to behave like an adult from a really young age. But that being said, it was like our playground. We just had a whale of a time. It was just a great time. And we knew we were at work, but we were really tight knit. And
I was going to say, as you're living together.
yeah, well, we lived together. And also, like, a lot of the crew had children, so they were fully aware of the fact that we were, like, not talking proper, so we were kids. And so they were quite lax with us being kids. And so it was like summer camp, I suppose. Quite an intense summer camp, but it was, kind of like that's what I spent all my summers doing. Like, I never had a summer holiday from school because I was always there. And I loved it. I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. I loved it.
So on the Tracy Beaker stuff, was it always, when was it apparent that you was going to continue that, or was it written in, or was it?
No, it was. So I joined in the last 3 episodes of it still being Tracy Beaker. I was a huge Tracy Beaker fan, and so I was really, really excited to get the job. And then I got the first script, which was my first episode, and then I didn't get the one in the middle. The next script I got was the last of the current series, which was called Goodbye Tracy Beaker, which was the series coming to an end. So I was like, sorry, what? I can't get this job like 3 weeks before it ends forever. And I was, as you can imagine, I was quite upset about it. I was kind of 11, I think, maybe 12. And the other girls were like, no, don't be worried. It's going to carry on. It's going to be called The Dumping Ground, and it's just going to be the same but with a different name. So I don't know if I knew it was a certainty. They knew it was a certainty. I don't know if I thought it was just gossip, but I certainly knew. I didn't come away from it thinking, oh, that show's over. And then once it started as The Dumping Ground, it really took on a life of its own. We originally started with 13 episodes in a series, which is what we'd always had to Tracy Beaker Returns. Very quickly, I think possibly even the second series, it went straight up to 20. And then it became 20 in an hour special. And it kind of just kept growing until it was 24 episodes a series.
Wow.
Which is quite significant for a children's show, really. It takes 6 months to film, and they would split that in half and air one at the beginning of the year and one at the end. And now I think it's a bit more pared back and they don't do quite so much because they've got a younger cast now who, they need to go to school. Like, we were all kind of on the older end of child actors, whereas now they've got very, very young ones, so they've kind of pared it back a little bit. But at the height of it, we did 24 episodes a year. Sometimes that would include some hour specials and stuff, which was like a quite big deal, really.
How did you juggle your studies then?
Oh, I didn't. No, like I did. We had tutors, but I never cared for it. I didn't like tutoring. It did my head in. And I just did whatever I liked, really. But I did, pass all my GCSEs. But I did all my GCSEs. They don't do this anymore, I should say. But at the time, you used to be able to do your exams while you were filming. Now you have to have some episodes out and go home. But I didn't. I stayed in and was shooting at the same time. So I used to go and do an exam in the morning at this random secondary school, where I had to go in my school uniform, which I never quite understood.
One of the things that sticks with you.
Yeah, I never really got it, because why was I going in my school uniform? What difference did that make to the exam? Well, I never did. I used to go in, I just used to put on my tie and my school shirt and then jeans and trainers. I just read it, but I liked it. It wasn't very good. And I did all my exams in an art storage cupboard. I used to go through because I wasn't allowed to be in the main hall, because they said it would be a distraction for who, I don't know.
Because you had a different uniform on.
Yeah, well, that would be the only thing. Who would care? Just sitting at the back, no one would be bothered. But they said that it would be a distraction. And so I used to go through the school to the art rooms, go in the art storage cupboard where they just rammed a desk and a chair, and I had this invigilator called Sue. She wore a leopard skin coat. Me and her would just sit in a cupboard, and I'd do an exam.
Sue.
Yeah. And then I'd be like, Sue, I'm done. And you're meant to stay until the very end, aren't you? But I was busy, I had stuff to do. I'd be like, Sue, I'm done.
Maybe it was a preemptive sign to being in the broom cupboard.
Yeah, maybe. And she'd be like, do you want to go then? And I'd say, yeah. I remember doing my maths exam. I'm really bad at maths. I've never been able to do it, really. I was like, Sue, I'm done. She was like, yeah, you can't be done, because you've only done it for half an hour and this exam's like 1 hour and 45. I was like, yeah, I just can't do anymore. This is it for me. I'm done. And she went, I'm not really meant to do this. Also, you're not meant to speak to these people.
I was going to say, also formally.
No, you're not meant to talk to these people. But I've gotten quite well with her. She was like, why don't you just have 15 minutes and then have the paper back and try again? I was like, are you allowed to do that? She was like, no.
We're in a cupboard.
So just knock a couple of these out for us. I'm just
Wait,
gonna-
there was a fire
you know,
alarm once. I was doing there was a fire alarm once, and we had to leave together. And I went, what do we do with the paper? And she was like, I don't know, because I've never been in this situation before. I was like, me neither. It's just, which fair praise, like, she was like an invigilator, but so often she was like, I don't know what the protocol is for this, because I don't normally sit with one child in a cupboard. Like, this is not normal.
So she didn't specialise in doing that for
No, she normally,
TV industry.
she normally went into a school hall with, like, 200 kids and walked up and down. But we used to have chats, because then after a bit, somebody, I don't know, someone must have said to her, like, you can't let her out early, 'cause she did it a few times. She was like, oh, I can't let you out early anymore. And I was like, so what are we going to do? Just look at each other for like half hour. She was like, we can have a chat if you want to. Let's just have a chat.
She was like, so what was that to 3B? What would you have put?
She used to say to me, like, do you think you've done as much as you can? And she'd like to take it away from me. And I'd be like, yeah, I think so. She'd be like, have another read. And she was really great. And then I had a chaperone called Liz who had to stay on the premises while I was there, because I was still chaperone. So, she couldn't just leave me somewhere. It'd be really against the legalities of what a chaperone does. But she also wasn't allowed in the room. So she just had to, like, just sit in the reception of the school for the entire time that I did an exam. And I'm a really big reader. So she used to read whatever I'd bought in the car with me. But she was much slower than I was. So I was having to, like, bring my book and Liz's book for Liz to read.
Oh, she wasn't moving the marker back then when you read,
She was very good at me. She also used to get stuck in traffic so that I could eat out and not have the catering food. She'd be like, let's get stuck in traffic and we can get you something nice to eat. And she used to get me, those little, I think they used for mixers really, but like the little cans of like soft drinks.
Yes.
She got the exact amount for the amount of exams I had, and when I came out she used to give me one. It's like a treat. But yeah, so my schooling was bizarre, really, but I liked it. I had a great time.
Passed.
Yeah,
Maths at school.
I didn't pass maths, but I was never going to pass maths even if I went to school. So,
What was the Horrid Henry film before or after the dumping ground, or in between?
Before, it would have been just before.
Yeah.
I think.
Did you have any idea of like the scope of the actors and actresses that were in that at the time?
Yeah, no, I did. Probably not to the extent I do now, but I knew certainly some of them. Who was the actor that left us? Awful, I can't remember her name. But you can check it. You can fact check me on whoever it was. She played Miss Battleaxe, and there'd been a day, because I wasn't in it very much compared to the other children, because the part was kind of written because they thought I was quite funny. It wasn't. I don't know if it was intended or not. And she'd given all the other children like a signed photo and stuff, and I hadn't been there. And so when I got there for my first day's filming, she'd left me like a lovely letter, wishing me luck and stuff, on a signed photo, which I'll be in my house somewhere, which I thought was really cool. I didn't get to meet a lot of the really cool people on that though. Although Dick and Dom I'd worked with before, and then bumped into them on the red carpet, and they remembered, and I remember being like, "That's weird. Why would you remember that?" I remember it because I did one episode of your show, and I kind of seem to bump into them at like 5-year intervals. I seem to see them like once every 5 years. And we just go, how's your life? Yeah, it's all right. How's yours? Yeah.
I saw them last year at festival doing a rave set.
They're cool, aren't they?
It's
I do genuinely bump into them like kind of once every 5 years. It's weird because I now do the job that they did on CBBC. So last time I bumped into them, they were like, "That's bizarre, isn't it?" I was like, "Yeah, we were televisions."
So the journey that you're making is ever different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so flying forward. So just touching upon that really. You've won. So I was at the Birmingham Film Festival and doing some photographing when you won the Best Actor award there. You've got quite a few awards now. Is it important to get awards as an actor? Because is it
I don't. Well, maybe
raise at work?
Well, I don't really win many, so maybe I'm not better.
Well, I saw the clip where you were trying to do will you vote for me? And you said, I don't really like.
I hate doing it. I hate asking people to vote for me. It does my head in. But you have to.
But at the same time, I think, you know what, you know you've done a good job. It would be nice to.
Well, I don't hold much stock in them really. They're nice, it's a nice acknowledgement, and it's nice on the night when you're with, your peers and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, that was good," and that's nice. But you often get that if you don't win anyway. And I just don't think that's really the point. Like, I just don't hold much stock in it. Maybe if I'd won more, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, they're great." But I don't, and so I've never really been that bothered.
I suppose awards don't pay the bills, do they?
No. And also for me, it's not. If ever I get asked, "Oh, what's your like proudest moment?" or "What's like a memory that really sticks with you? What's something you could relive?" I never jump to a night when I've won an award. It doesn't come into my head because for me that's like not the point and not the job. And I've just not really ever been that bothered about it, which is probably why I don't win very many because I don't normally talk about it very much. But you know, got some nice certificates and stuff. Like,
So you've won some, you've been nominated for some. Have you had to practice a graceful loser face just in case
no,
when the
it's
camera
just-
pans
I
around?
don't ever really think I'm gonna win, so I just kind of go, great. Doctors was great because doctors would like, you know, we were very much the underdogs of the soap awards, and we were going for a good time. Like we were going for a free bar. Well, not me personally, but you know, people would go for a free bar and a dance and a night out, like dress up and night out with all our friends. We weren't really going with like we're gonna win best soap. As
You're up against the likes of Coronation Australia. It's
phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Still in the.
But like, it was nice to be in the mix, and it's a great night out. And that's how I always viewed it. And I've not really been to very many that are televised, so you don't really need to like.
Oh, okay.
Nobody's really that bothered. And also, I just think at those actual events when you're there, you're all in the same boat, and there's way more losers there than there are winners. And so it's not really, no one really. Do you know what I mean? That was
Beefus and knows that John that night, didn't you, with EastEnders and Corrie? It's literally just them two, isn't it? Normally, a lot of times
there was
with
one
best
year. There was
entertainment
one
shows.
year that I was there. I wasn't in the episode. Very few. There was only one of us that was in the episode actually. I know there was one year that was a bit of an upset when we won best episode because that wasn't typically one that we won, but the episode was phenomenal. I mean, it was outstanding. But yeah, we just go for a great time. We were always the first on the dance floor. We were the last to leave. We had a great time.
What's the So was there a jump from? This isn't on the questions, but was there a jump from the way you was working during the dumping ground to then going into doctors and a different way of working, or was it very similar?
It was very similar.
Obviously, you were a little bit older.
No,
but-
not much really, because I actually started doctors before I left dumping ground.
Right.
So I knew I was being written out. And so I knew I was being written out. I found that out in late November.
Did they come up to you and say, "Listen"?
Or they rang us.
Okay.
They were rebooting the show.
Yeah.
Oh, so it was way past due. I'd been in that show for 11 years. I was almost 22. Why was I playing a child in a house? Do you know what I mean? Like, it was way overdue for me. So I found that out, and then I got doctors in January, started in January, and I didn't go back to leave dumping ground until April. So I'd been there for, you know, a few months by the time I went back and left. In fact, I found this out today. Somebody tagged me in this earlier. Today was 3 years ago since my first episode of Doctors aired, and my first episode of Doctors aired the day after I shot my last scenes for Dumping Ground. Literally, it was that close. But yes, there wasn't a massive gap, and there wasn't a massive change. Really, I think the biggest change takes place when you turn 16 and you become unchaperoned and you have to start working adult hours, which actually is different these days because they do duty of care and stuff. So it's actually probably a bit of a smoother transition. Whereas it was quite like you're one and then the other when I was that age. But Doctors wasn't really a big change. It's fast. I mean, it was ridiculously fast. But Dumping Ground wasn't much slower. And actually, I probably did more work at Dumping Ground because I was one of very few over 16 actors, which meant I could work all day, every day. So I would just be in any scene they could put me in to make things look busy. You know, sometimes that would be because I was genuinely needed in the scenes, and sometimes it was just because it's nice to have an extra body. Like,
I was just doing grab a sandwich and sit in the back.
yeah, and I did loads of that, which was fine. But that wasn't the thing at Doctors. If you were in a scene, you were in a scene. Like, you weren't just there for the sake of it. So I probably did more work really at Dumping Ground. At Dumping Ground, I always did a 5-day week, whereas at Doctors, like, I normally had at least 1 day off. So yeah, probably, but I loved it. I mean, Doctors was the best time of my life.
So I've done a bit of Amdram myself, pantos mainly.
Oh, you haven't?
Hey, lines. Tell me about how you look, because I imagine then, like you're saying, Dumping Ground's fast paced and you're in and out of the scenes. Doctors.
It was different on the two. Dumping Ground was. it was kind of, we had a bit of a culture of looking down on having sides with you, which are, you get given your sides in every day, and those are just the scenes that you'll shoot in that day in the order you're going to shoot them. And we had a real culture of shame around sides, and nobody used them. Including me. I was really strict about it and never used sides. And I always knew everything. I was off book all the time. But it was a lot easier because as much as the days filming were fast, we didn't shoot the quantity in the time period. So at Dumping Ground, we would do like 4 episodes in about 4 weeks, whereas at Doctors we did 3 episodes in 7 days, and then we also double bank, so we would be doing 2 blocks, so there would be like 6 episodes, and sometimes we would triple bank, so there would be like 9 episodes. So there was a lot more to learn. And so my principles of being off book went out the window because it's impossible. It was impossible on that show to be off book. I was off book. I can tell this story because I've now told it to the
What do you mean
person.
off book?
So like not using any sides.
Okay.
But I can tell the story because I've now told it to the person that features in it. I didn't tell him for years.
Exclusive.
On one of my very first days, I went on to Doctors and I only had like a line or 2 in this particular scene, so I knew it, so I didn't take my sides with me. And everyone on that show is like uses their sides quite religiously. And one of the other actors was like, "Oh, look at this, the new girl, she learns lines. She knows, look at this, everyone, she's not got any sides on her because she's learned the lines." I never did it again, just took my sides with me. Didn't matter how well but also, the more I did it, the more that like, I mean, when I was doing that, I could do, it's a bit bad really, but I did do full days filming without learning the lines the night before, and I would just pick it up as the day went on. Because sometimes you would just be so snowed under that you would just run out of time to actually learn what you were doing. And sometimes you would be walking set with, and I was the kind of the baby of that cast by quite a lot. I think there was like almost 10 years between me and the next youngest. A majority of that cast were kind of in their 40s and 50s. And so sometimes I would be walking up to set with an older actor and I'd be like, I might have run out of time to learn this one. I'm going to try and get it on the line run. And they'd be like, "Oh, wow, I'm ready." And you'd be like, "Great." And then the two of you would figure it out during the line run, which I think sometimes scared the guests because we would just learn it in the line run. But we also had a lot of creative freedom on that show.
I was going to say, was it dynamic?
It's very real, wasn't it?
Yeah. We had loads of creative freedom. I think compared to virtually any show, like we were allowed to really... We were like the gatekeepers of those characters, so we were allowed to rewrite, to cut, to add,
as long as you've
completely
got
make up. Like, yeah,
that point across of the conversation.
As long as the plot point was in there, you could really have some fun with it. And so that was a great joy, especially because, you know, we'd play around if we had guests, but we would also be respectful of the fact that they'd learn what they'd learned it properly. Because, you know, they'd only be coming in for 1 episode, so they had time to learn it properly. But when it was just us, the regs amongst ourselves, we would go to town. You know, you just would go, "Well, what if you said that? Okay, well, if you say that, I'm going to say this back." Or, you know, somebody would say, "I don't really like your line very much." And you'd be like, "Yeah, no, I don't think it's very good. Can you think of something funnier?" And we would really kind of play it, and it was such a joy. There's some episodes that I watch, and I'm like, I'm not acting, I'm just laughing. I just thought it was funny at the time. Well,
but you're doing it in your character.
Vaguely.
Right, yeah.
Sometimes get guests that would be a bit thrown. I think they would sometimes be thrown as well by I suppose we were a bit cavalier with the directors, and the directors were with us. They would be like, "Are you going to say your lines in this?" You know, directors we knew each other so well. We were together 24/7, 42 weeks of the year. You get directors come on and go, "Are you going to bother saying anything on the page today?" And you go, "No, I'm not actually. No, I'm not." And the guests would be like, "What? Really, that's not how it's meant to go." Or sometimes, you know, directors would be like, "I've got some blocking, I'm thinking this. Do you want to do that or do you want to do something else?" And sometimes, you know, if I was in reception, I'd be like, "Well, actually, I've been stood by the letters all day. Can I not do something else?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, if you want, do what you want." Or like...
You're like a Shakespearean trying guest lot, horror folk.
Yeah, but it was because, you know, and also sometimes the writers were different for every episode. So sometimes we would have serial storylines that went across lots of blocks that wouldn't necessarily quite tally up with one another. So again, it was very important to be like on top of gatekeeping your story and your character, because that was nobody's fault. That's just the way things work. But sometimes I'd be doing a scene and I'd go, "I can't actually say that because that directly contradicts what I'm going to do next week." I remember once they cut a scene from an episode that I was doing about my character learning to drive. and they cut the scene, and I was like, no, and like I didn't. They just casually said a number to me, said we've cut this scene. Luckily, I used to carry a full script tabbed with my scenes in. That was how I kept track of what we hadn't filmed because it was so fast. And I was like, hang on, no. I was like, no, you can't cut that, because it was literally really the point of the next episode was this one scene that they were just going to cut because they didn't know, because it wasn't their block. So it was really kind of...
It was
a really good relationship. I think it probably did weird the guests out because we were just so like... like everyone was just... knew each other so well. Maybe they enjoyed it. Maybe some enjoyed it. Maybe some didn't. We had so many.
So, I saw one of your interviews where you mentioned the difference between working in a drama and working presenting, where you said you're trying to make one moment perfect multiple times in a show, but as a presenter, you're trying to make multiple moments work. So, obviously, presenting Saturday mashup, where probably a little bit more chaotic than Doctors.
I love it. It's mad in a different way. I think actually, to say with Doctors, because obviously I went into that show, I was 21 when I started. I'd only done children's television. And as I said, most of those actors were very experienced. A good chunk of them have been acting longer than I've been alive. And they were all so gracious and kind and lovely with me, because they really could have just been like, what do you mean we've got to hang around with a 21-year-old every day for the rest of our lives? But they were never like that with me. But I will say, one of the things that got me the most credit was when they found out that I did live television. They were all they were all quite scared of it. And I think it probably is what got me like a really good rep with the others. Live telly is one of the greatest joys in the world. I think it's one of the best things in this industry. It's amazing. I love it. The way I got into it is bizarre. I'll tell you it. It's a good story. I tell it a lot. So I'd been booked to guest present at Saturday Mashup, which started on the Friday. Rehearse on a Friday, do it on a Saturday. And that was that. I'd never presented before, but they were going to like really teach me everything about how it worked, get me into it. Then I got a thing from my agent that was like, are you available on Wednesday? Oh, I said, yeah, never heard anything else about it. We assumed that had come from them. They were going to get me up for an extra day because I was brand new. They didn't in the end, that was that. Nobody ever heard anything about it. I was out on that Wednesday in town, and my agent rang me, like, where are you? I was like, where should I be? I'm in Birmingham. She was like, how quickly do you think you could be in Manchester? I was like, well, I'm by the train, so like, whenever the next train is, I could be on it. Why? She was like, they need you at HQ, which is the equivalent of the brewing cupboard. And I did that quite a lot as a guest, but not normally on a Wednesday. I was normally a Friday guest. I was like, what for? And she was like, I can't make any sense of it. And I could hear her tapping, and she was like, there's a train in 7 minutes. Could you be on that one? I was like, yeah. She was like, buy a ticket on the train, we'll reimburse you. I was like, okay, what's it for? She was like, I'm not quite sure, but like, they're desperate. So just go. So I was like, okay. I was like, Mum, I've got to go. She was like, where? I was like, Manchester. She was like, why? I was like, don't know. She was like, what do you mean you don't know? I was like, I haven't got the time for this conversation, actually. I've got to go. Ran and got on this train, paid for a ticket. My agent rang me back when I was on my way there. She was like, they want you to present in the afternoon. I was like, they can't want me to present in the afternoon. That's not my job. She was like, no, I think it's a mistake, but just go, see what happens. We'll get you paid. Let me know. I was like, oh, okay. She went, but you're going to miss the first live link of the afternoon, but you'll be there for the next one. I was like, what? This is really weird. Turns out somebody thought they'd booked me, but what they'd actually done is said, is Kia available, which is not the same thing. So I walked in, just like, you know, not ready for telly. I was just in what I'd gone out in the morning. And they were like, oh, thank God you're here, you're late. I was like, late for what? Like, you can't just say I'm late. And they gave me an earpiece, which you don't get as a guest. And I was like, I was just like looking at it in my hand, and I was like, something's gone wrong. But it was too late. So I walked in and they went, you've got 9 minutes until we're live. Just go and practice with Phil, who is the Hacker's puppeteer. And I walked in, he went, you're not a presenter. Because we've known each other quite a long time. And I was like, no, what is going on? He went, is that earpiece on? I was like, I don't know. I've never put one in. He went, well, can you hear anyone? I was like, no. He was like, well, it's not then. He's like, give it here. Turned it on, put it in, practiced this link, went live for an afternoon. And then at the end of it, Phil's like, I'd just like the gallery to know that Kia Pegg has never done any presenting in her life. That was like her debut. And everyone was like, what? there'd just been a mix-up somewhere along the way. Somebody thought they'd seen me presenting. I just rang me on a random Wednesday. I said, "Can you come in and present today?"
Brilliant.
And that's how I started. And then I did Mash Up that weekend by coincidence. So by coincidence, and those aren't.
Oh, so those two weren't related?
No, not the same set of people. By coincidence, 2 producers in the same week had gone, "Why don't we get Kia Pegg to do it?" Randomly. So I did Mash Up that weekend. And then, luckily for me, Rhys Stevenson was in Strictly at the time. And so they needed cover. And so I did about 4 or 5 months just like covering for Rhys, really, and then covering for anyone that wasn't in. So sometimes I used to cover for Hacker, which was really funny because I would get there and I would be like, the script was written for him, so I would be him for the like I would have
You
like
put the accent on.
his persona for the afternoon. So sometimes I'd go in and fill in for the puppet, and sometimes I'd be filling in for different people. Sometimes when I was filling in for the puppet, on the script it would have the run-up of a joke, and then it would say Phil inserts punchline. And I'd be like, "But Phil's not here, so somebody better write one." Because I can't do it. Because, I mean, that's the other thing with puppeteers. They're amazing writers. They write a lot of their own stuff. And so sometimes it'd be like, Phil does the punchline. And I'd be like, "Well, Phil's not in. So somebody better think of something."
So Phil just gets the day off.
Well, he had things going on at the time, but you know, people would have like emergencies or whatever, and then they would just ring me and get me to do it. But when I say ring like emergencies, like it was the same day. Like they would ring me at like 9 o'clock to be on the 9:30 train, and then I would do my makeup on the train. So also this was kind of like on the tail end of COVID, so there was no makeup artists. I would like do my makeup on the train and then present for the afternoon, and that's how I started. And then Mash Up, who knows why, but very graciously have kind of built me into the show, and now I work there a lot more than I do HQ. I pop in now and then.
It's a great attitude to have, though, isn't it? Yeah, I can do it. Yeah, all right.
Yeah,
Don't look at me and
I
not
don't
being all
think it was because I didn't really have a chance to
have nerves.
think about it.
Yeah.
And I was very familiar with HQ. I've done lots of work there in the past, but
Yeah.
What's that? Is that Media Sitter?
yeah. But it was just
Did you get nervous?
yeah. Probably for the things that I shouldn't, more so. And everyone, when they do the count that you're about to go live, you just
Sketch you.
yeah, well, because you just get like a little demon in your head that goes, "This is going to be the one where you swear," like this is going to be the one where you completely forget everything you know, or this you're going to we have to run down the stairs sometimes. What if I'm guest hosting, which I don't do massively regularly, but you have to run down the stairs, and like I'll always be like, "I'm going to fall down the stairs." But then the second that you go live, it's very rare that it lasts. I've never really been live once. I've never really been nervous once we've gone live.
Has there ever been like a blue language catastrophe once
Or a
live?
tittering? I imagine there's a bit of tittering. No.
I think there's been other various things go wrong when we've been live. I've been out on location and the cameras have gone down like in the middle of our link, and then had to kind of like configure a link very, very quickly because you're about to go live again. I've been live and I haven't known I was live. That's scary. That's scary when you find out you were live and you're like, "I could have said anything."
What does it say?
We have our guests swear when they're being slimed usually. Well, only once or twice. People are generally quite good. I think the links going down is the scariest when it just stops working, because you can hear Glasgow saying, we've lost you, but you don't know that until after the fact. There's also a delay when you're on location to the thing. So I was once talking away, and then all of a sudden I could hear the other presenters who were in studio going, "We've lost them." And I was like, "Have you lost us?" And we just couldn't communicate with each other. And then we had to kind of put 2 links into one. And I'd lost the cards for one of the links, so I was just kind of flying blind. That's a bit scary. When you lose the gallery is scary. If you're live and somebody can't hear. I was once live and we had a fire alarm while we were live. That was quite scary because they were like, "We've got."
Did we carry on live or do I burn?
No, we carried on live. They were like, well, because they were like, it's a drill and we've got a dispensation to carry on during drills because we're live. And me and this guy Lee, we were doing a rap about Danger Mouse. And so we were doing this rap, and I vaguely remember the words. It starts with "Welcome to HQ, it's the place to be," and we were like doing this rap. And then we heard our producer go, "Kia, Lee, not to worry, this it's actually a real fire alarm, but we are now live, so you've got 45 seconds and we will have to evacuate really quick." And so we finished the link, and then they were like, right, everybody get out! There's a
Oh, so
fire!
you did finish the rap.
Yeah, we finished the link. It was only 45 seconds.
Just in the background, it's people like,
I don't know if they knew for sure it was only a fire alarm, but like they were like, we don't think it's a drill. We do actually have to evacuate as soon as it's done. And so like we left, and we were the last people out. But also our producers were like, when can we go back in? Because this cartoon's only 20 minutes. We need to go back in. There's no one in there. So, you know, it's fun. I like that. It's that kind of thing that where you really learn. Like the times that I've learned the most are the ones where it's gone really wrong. I did a link at Buckingham Palace once where we thought it was a rehearsal and it wasn't. And we ended up like losing the feed and stuff. And you can just see me like coiling a cable because I didn't know we were live. I'm like, yeah. And then after this, we've got, and they're like, and then the puppet goes to me, we're live, baby. And I'm like, hello. But those are the ones where you really learn. Because I'll tell you something now, in the run up to being live when I'm out on location, I never do anything other than stand with a smile on my face looking down the lens because I'm like, they might cut to me at any moment and I will be ready. And you know, it's only when you get it wrong that you learn those things. But it's great. It's very good fun.
You touched upon the guns then.
Yeah.
You spoke off camera.
Yeah.
Did you say you got Guinness
Guinness World Record holder for
Yeah.
relay gunging?
Yeah, I have a problem with that though because so we've got the Guinness World Record for the most people slimed in relay in 3 minutes, and I ran the world record that week. That was my part of the show. And it included, we had 80 people and we slimed all of them. We could have got further, but there's a lot of technicalities about it. It had to be on the crown of the head, and if it didn't drip down to the shoulders, it didn't count. There was a lot of technicalities, and one of the technicalities was that I had to start it. I had to slime this tiny boy. But to begin it, I had to pour a bucket of slime over my own head, and unless I did that, the entire thing was invalid, and yet I wasn't counted in the numbers. Fuming at that.
You did stitch that out.
Was it the actual definition of it was being gunged by someone that's already been gunged?
I don't know. Well, it's very serious, the world.
That sounds like
No, listen, it's really not. You think that it's really a serious thing. It doesn't matter how silly the world record is, it's taken incredibly seriously. We could have got more. We definitely could have got more numbers. I think we got 4 discounted in the end, and we got the world record. But also, we genuinely did not know if we were going to get the world record until we got it. And that's when we were live. And so we'd had to rehearse both outros, so we'd had to rehearse like me celebrating with the other presenters, but we'd also had to rehearse me being like, oh well, maybe we'll try.
What kind of faces did you have to put for that?
Maybe we'll try again later in the series. But it almost went really wrong, the Guinness World Record, because we had to have 80 people to do it, and in the morning, you know, very near to us going live, only half turned up, and so our producers, I mean, I don't know. Her name's Laura, the woman that did this predominantly, and Anna, her assistant. They just gathered 40 people from nowhere to be in this. I don't know how they did it. It was really quite miraculous because they just.
Because where was that Glasgow? Was that in Glasgow?
Yeah,
children and adults.
Yeah, mix of children and adults. And then we had some of the gladiators were in it. I think Viper and there's about 3 of them. I can't remember who they were. And then I was there, and then our 2 main hosts, Joe and Shireen, which also they had to present the rest of the show. I was done. Joe, and once the world record attempt was done, I was out. But they had to go back in and present the end of the show. I think they had about 30 minutes left to present. I got added into a couple of bits to just hold the record because we were all on a bit of a high. But they actually had to really govern back to work, which also another thing that I host for that show is Joe versus Shireen, where they do these crazy challenges, which are genuine surprises for them. They really don't know what they're doing until I announce it in the show. So I do like secret rehearsal. So they go home on a Friday and then I stay and do a secret rehearsal. And I have to like hide my cue cards, and like it's genuinely kept a secret from them. Apart from the ones where they have to go and train beforehand. So they did an abseil and they had to go and do like abseil training. And again, they have to carry on presenting the show after those. So like they abseiled from the top of BBC Scotland to the bottom, and then had to go and present the show. We did an Olympic relay, which took place around the entire building. They had to carry on presenting the show. Human bowling we did with like Zorbs. I said we did. I never did any of these things. I just
I feel like on the high of this abseil that they're having
and then
probably having a mortal fear of that, and then having to think, well, I've got.
So I kind of do these like links that they turn all the screens off in the studio and stuff so that they can't see what I'm doing. and they really don't know. I think what we did, I think my favourite one was possibly like it's the least extreme, but it was for us the most fun because we very rarely, the three of us, get to actually be together in studio. And we did a really funny one at Halloween where towards the end of the show I just did a quiz across the show and they had to have remembered all the details of everything that we'd done. And that was my favourite one because they really just had no idea. And then it ended with there'd been a mummy in loads of the shots and it was Shireen's mum. And she'd been across the show. That was probably my favourite one that we did because it was we never really get to be together like that.
Bouncing off each other.
Yeah, really bouncing off each other. And they were genuinely quite put out because they were just like, it was things like because I'd been making a potion for the show, obviously. And it was standard. And it was things like how many eyes did I put in the potion? And that had happened like an hour and 45 minutes ago. And they don't watch my bits because they're prepping their bits. Yeah. I can't watch their bits. Well, we do. But like you don't sit you don't sit and studiously watch it because you've got work to do. So I think that was my favourite one. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a series on now, isn't there? Because I've just told you or something. I think it's got Jimmy Carr on. Seen that?
Yeah.
Similar thing.
But it was, and I think that was my favourite one that we did because they were just both like. Whereas the physical ones are just, they are what they are. Whereas that was like they were really torturing themselves.
Yeah.
So we touched on Haka, working with a puppet and a puppeteer.
Yeah.
So how quickly did you pick up and the complexities and the environment of working with a puppet?
Well, it's different doing it as a guest than as a presenter. They go easier on you if you're a guest. Phil, who does Hacker, Phil Fletcher, he's a nightmare. One of my favourite people. I love working with Phil. Like, really love working with Phil. But he will do anything to make you forget what you're saying, to put you off, to make you laugh.
I love him a lot.
He's just a nightmare. But the last day that I did with him was in January. And he was trying so hard to put me off and put himself off. And I had to rescue it. And I was like he's great fun. It's great. I mean, they're a puppeteer, I think, when you get the opportunity to watch a puppeteer work.
I think I've seen some behind the scenes with they're down and they've got a monitor there.
He's
on the little skateboard, isn't he, moving around?
Yeah, on his little trolley. But it's not just, it's not just what you see of that. They write a good chunk of the material. A lot of them will make the props. They redress the puppets because those puppets are always getting changed. Phil makes puppets. That's quite, not most puppeteers don't also make them, but he makes them himself as well. He doesn't do Hacker, but he does, all of his others. It is one of the most incredible skills, and I think when you see children come in, which we have probably more on Mashup, the puppeteer doesn't exist for them. I mean, they're literally 2 feet away, and they just only have eyes for.
Well, that's it. So I'm saying my kids watch CBBC, and I was looking at your videos behind the scenes when I was doing research, but I didn't want to show them the videos with the puppeteer.
Well, look, it's a real art form. I could never. I'm like a huge puppet fan, so they always tell me little fun facts. They know I am as well. All the puppeteers I work with know that I'm a huge fan of the Muppets and a fan of puppets in general. As they always tell me little fun stories and fun facts and stuff. But whenever they say, "Oh, do you want to have a go?" I was like, "No." It's a bit. I suppose I'm a bit referential onto it. I'm a bit because most puppeteers also won't let you. They're like, "Don't touch my puppet, Fez." But Phil's always like, "Have a go, put Hacker on." I've never done it. All the years that I've known him, I've never once done it.
Sacrilege if you do.
No.
Yeah, so thank you ever so much for your time today. Really enjoyed having you on.
No, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And best of luck in the future.
Thanks.
Thanks, up.